Good evening. My name is Nate Reeves. I'm a student at Scott County High School and a proud member of the Kentucky Student Voice team. Thank you all for coming to our 2026 State of Students address to hear from Kentucky students about the legislation that we have been monitoring during this session. This address is an opportunity for our partners, friends, and the media to understand how the 2026 legislative session has impacted and been impacted by students. You will hear from members of the Kentucky Student Voice team's policy team about our work this session and the work to come for next session. As we reflect on the 2026 legislative session, we've seen a clear trend in efforts for what the majority of the state legislature has deemed accountability in our education system. Accountability for school boards, for students, and for administrators. However, we've also seen this genuine need for accountability used as justification to consolidate power, creating systems that are even less accountable than ones previously existed. The removal of duly elected school board members, the further criminalization of school disciplinary measures, the attempts to break up Kentucky's largest school district. Those are among some of the more glaring examples of that trend. This address will touch on those efforts and highlight some other bills we see as a part of a larger trend that is the politicization of public education. Beyond school governance, House Bill 500, the state budget, further illustrates these misaligned priorities. By only modestly increasing SEEK funding, below inflation, the legislature has effectively cut per pupil spending by 26% compared to 2008 levels when adjusted for inflation. SEEK transportation contributions are frozen at the 2026 level of $399 million for 2027 and 2028, or $93 million below what the law requires. Throughout this quest for accountability, KSVT has stood as the accountability measure for the state, working tirelessly to ensure new policies don't create more problems for Kentuckians in the future, while also working to promote proactive policy solutions and practices that can improve the experience of Kentucky students. This session, we stood shoulder to shoulder with our partners and allies Protect Our Schools Kentucky to fight these budget cuts and push for a more meaningful reinvestment in Kentucky's public schools. While the legislature decided against this, we are proud to have advocated successfully for the legislature to scrap the cap to public employee healthcare premiums, which would have resulted in massive premium hikes for Kentucky public school employees. Our engagement with the legislature forms only one of the ways the policy team attempts to influence education and promote student voice. Today, we'll share a little bit about both of the ways our team aims to drive policy change in Kentucky, within and outside of the legislative session. To hear a little bit more about what we're doing with that work outside of the state legislature, I'm going to pass it off to KSVT Policy Coordinator to talk about the work of our Student School Board Bill team.
Thank you, Nate. I'm Ezra Anglin. I'm a freshman at Lafayette High School. I'm a member of our policy team. I've been part of our Student School Board team since this fall as well, which is a sub-team of our policy. And the Student School Board Member Team, or the SSB, is a continuation of KSVT's long history of promoting student voice at the local level, since our team has worked for over a decade, to push for student representation on school-based decision-making councils, superintendent screening committees, and now as non-voting representatives on our boards of education. Truly, we believe that school governance is only democratic when it includes those most impacted by its decisions, and that is students. In our recent years, our team has moved toward a statewide student school board campaign to ensure students are recognized as essential partners in local governance. And I myself, I've served as student representative on my local board of education, the Fayette County Board of Education, and I've given public comment directly to the board, and I've mobilized my fellow peers to actually come to their school board meetings. Some of them didn't even know that school board meetings happened and when they happened. So I gave them an outlet, and now we have more people regularly attending those meetings. This year, our work has been to develop deeper ties with school districts, especially with existing student representation. And we also tried to ensure across administrations and student bodies. This year, our work has been to develop deeper ties with school districts, with existing student representation, ensuring sustainability across administrations and student bodies. Our team has also been working with a number of districts currently without school board representation. To give you a sense of the progress our students have made over the course of this school year in advancing student representation on these district decision-making bodies, I'm going to hand it over to Ismail, who will talk about the work they've undergone in their own districts.
Hello, my name is Ismail, and I'm a proud policy member of the Kentucky Student Voice Team and a freshman at Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. Through my advocacy work, I have focused on ensuring that students are not just affected by decisions, but also have active voice in shaping them. That's why we started this initiative by identifying key gaps at the school board level. There was simply not enough student representation on our school board committees, and the school board itself. Alongside Ezra, a fellow KSVT policy team member, we helped lead an effort much like what you would see in an ordinary adult-led campaign. We knocked on doors, talked with constituents in Fayette County, and gathered signatures to demonstrate support. Our goal was clear, both as an individual and a team, to secure meaningful student representation at the school board level so that students have adequate representation. Months of outreach went by, and we brought our concerns directly to board members. Through those conversations, we successfully advocated for the inclusion of 2 non-voting student representatives on the student committee. The Comprehensive District Improvement Plan Committee plays a crucial role in refining curriculum and setting academic priorities for FCPS students, decisions that directly affect students every single day. Thus, we needed a seat at the table. Ensuring student presence in that space was a significant step towards more inclusive and representative decision-making. At the school board level, my peers and I recognized a similar gap. The site-based decision-making, also known as the SPDM Council, is responsible for shaping key aspects of the student experience day to day, including grading policies, which affect our GPA, class structures, which decide how much we work in and outside of school, and scheduling, which decides which blocks do we go to when. Yet, despite the direct impact of these decisions, students haven't had an official voice at the table. And this is not a problem for only one school or a single city, but for schools across the entirety of the Commonwealth, entirety of Kentucky, and the entirety of the nation. Despite being a student, I began reaching out to stakeholders who could elevate this proposal, including the local board attorney and the district's SPDM coordinator. I worked to identify pathways for change and advocate for the inclusion of an official student voting member on the council. I didn't have an adult to monitor my research. I didn't have an adult to send those emails that could make or break this proposal. I did it as a student. This work is still going on to this day, but it reflects a goal that is evident throughout this speech. Students, no matter the school they attend or the grades they have on their transcript, deserve not only to be heard, but have a decision and a role that shape their education and day-to-day lives at school. Through these efforts, I have seen through my own experience as a regular high schooler that student representation makes students feel heard, even if that's adding one student representative. Because us students, we notice the progress. Thank you. I will now be turning it over to Elena.
Thanks, Ismail. My name is Elena Novacek. I'm a junior at Great Crossing High School and one of the policy team coordinators. I lead the bill tracking team. The bill tracking team is at the core of our organization's overall mission to first help Kentucky's young people understand the legislative process and policy decisions made about their school, and second, advocate for an educational equity and excellence. In order to achieve both these goals, our policy team strives to make KSVT's bill tracking more accessible for our audiences to read and understand, with thoughtful, diligent analysis and actionable steps for our bills that we prioritize throughout the session. This year, KSVT professionalized our bill tracking into a 3-chamber system. The tracking team identifies bills, the full policy team debates them on the chamber floor, and our executive branch of adult partners provides a final review. From there, members of our bill tracking team perform an in-depth analysis of each bill, which is published on our website. We use our policy litmus tests to ensure we only focus on issues where students' voices add a unique value and align with our mission to create a more just and democratic schools. I'm going to hand it over to Lucy, one of the members of our bill tracking team, to discuss our priority bills from the 2026 legislative session and give you a glimpse into our bill tracking process.
Thank you, Elena. My name is Lucy Carter, and I am a sophomore at Tates Creek High School. I am also a member of both our litigation and policy teams here at KSVT. Our team was deeply concerned when Senate Bill 114 was filed early in the session. That bill, filed by a member of the Senate Majority Leadership, would have made school boards in Kentucky's two largest school districts unelected and appointed based on partisan identity. Then, House Bill 649 was filed, a bill that would make those same district boards unelected and appointed by the Kentucky State Treasurer. The sponsors of the bill pitched these changes as responses to the financial hardships happening at the district level in these two specific school districts. As Nate mentioned at the beginning, this was posed as accountability. But to us, it did not feel like real accountability or any meaningful structural change that would have prevented the issues that occurred in these districts from happening. It felt like an attempt for the state legislature to consolidate power by taking away the rights of voters in Kentucky's two largest counties. So when a committee substitute was filed to Senate Bill 4 and ultimately passed by the House and Senate that would disqualify educators from serving on boards in Fayette and Jefferson counties and shift the makeup of Jefferson County's board, we were not surprised. I am a student in Fayette County Public Schools, one of the districts targeted by this substitute to Senate Bill 4. I had planned to go to the Capitol in Frankfort and give my testimony on Senate Bill 4, but the date for me to testify never came. And so with that, I'd like to take some time and read my testimony I wrote to all of you. To the members of the Senate Ed Committee. In my social studies classes, we are taught that the standard definition of democracy is government by the people. It's a system where we, as a community, choose the leaders who make decisions about our daily lives. However, after reading Senate Bill 114, it seems that for Fayette and Jefferson counties, that definition is being rewritten. Under current law, school board members are elected by residents of their districts. Senate Bill 114 would strip that right away for any county with over 25,000 students, replacing our elected representatives with an 11-member board entirely picked by the mayor. If you pass this bill, the board responsible for our education will no longer be government by the people. It will be government by the appointment. When the power to choose leaders is taken from the neighborhood and given to a single office, it fundamentally changes the nature of our representation. A board that is appointed by a politician is naturally more accountable to that politician than to the parents and students they serve. By removing the election process, you are removing the public's access key to hold those powers accountable. As a student, I am the one who has to live with these policies the board creates. I deserve to know that the people making those choices are accountable to my family and my neighbors at the ballot box. I am only 2 years away from being able to vote, and it is discouraging to think that my right to have a say in my own education might be taken away before I even get to use it. Please do not change what democracy means for the students of Fayette County. I urge you to vote no on Senate Bill 114. We shouldn't lose our voice just because our community is growing. Thank you. And with that, I am going to pass it to my fellow Fayette County Public School student, Maggie Donner, to share about the other legislation targeting school governance.
Thank you, Lucy. My name is Maggie Donworth, and I'm a sophomore at Tates Creek High School. I'm a member of the policy team and one of KSVT's student litigation team coordinators. Senate Bill 152 was introduced and passed in the Senate. If Senate Bill 152 was passed into law, it would mark a fundamental shift in power, making SBDM councils essentially advisory councils that have no real authority. Crucially, this bill would have removed the provision allowing students to serve on these bodies, a right that the Kentucky Student Voice Team fought hard to establish. This is a step backward for transparency and shared leadership, stripping power from the parents, teachers, and students who understand our schools the best. Last month, our team hosted a hearing in Lexington on school governance, focusing on the important role that SBDMs play in the district decision-making process and the recent efforts, like Senate Bill 152, to strip powers away from school councils. At the hearing, we heard from Liz Irwin, the president of the Kentucky Association of School Councils, who spoke about the vision that the Kentucky Education Reform Act had for school governance and the creation of SBDMs under KIRA. In my role as student litigation coordinator, I felt it was imperative that KSVT spoke up against Senate Bill 152 because students are the ones that have the most say in education, and they should be the primary voices. While we're grateful that Senate Bill 152 did not pass both chambers during this session, the passage of Senate Bill 4's Senate committee substitute is still a step in the wrong direction. Politicians in Frankfort should not be targeting individual school districts and elected officials over disagreements in ideology or practice. But that seemed to be a consistent focus throughout the session. As Lucy mentioned, it was not just accountability measures that we felt went wide off the mark this session. Senate Bill 26 was filed by the Senate Education Committee Vice Chair. It would have banned diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, initiatives, offices, and activities in all K-12 public schools across Kentucky. It is an attempt to ideologically alter classroom curriculum and climate. This bill mirrored a bill we opposed last session, House Bill 4, which eventually passed, banning DEI programs in Kentucky public universities and colleges. Neighboring states have taken it a step further, banning DEI in K-12 settings. So when Senate Bill 26 was filed, we, again, were not taken by surprise. I have seen how important it is for students to have spaces that make them feel represented, supported, and encouraged. Programs rooted in diversity, equity, and inclusion do not divide students. They give students the tools, confidence, and community that they need to succeed. Ultimately, Senate Bill 26 did not move forward this session. We count that as a victory and testament to how amazing the work of our public education coalition partners who spread the word, not only about Senate Bill 26, but about how House Bill 4 has changed Kentucky colleges.
My name is Caitlin Lockett, and I'm a senior at Eminence Independent High School and a member of the KSVT policy and litigation teams. This year, Senate Bill 351 was introduced as yet another attempt by the Kentucky legislature to fundamentally attack diversity and inclusion within Kentucky school systems. Senate Bill 351 aimed to do this by prohibiting school districts from hiring staff who had undergone treatment for or are actively receiving treatment for any condition outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 3, which was published in 1987. This would mean that school districts would be unable to hire transgender and gender nonconforming teachers in particular. This bill threatens the well-being of a group of educators so small that we cannot find reliable data onto their numbers. We do know that threatening the employees within the classroom contributes to the destabilization and disruption within the classroom, as well as student-educator dynamics. Additionally, this bill jeopardizes educators' ability to be their authentic selves in the classroom, which may cause them to struggle to create safe and supportive places for students to be their unique selves. The state legislature is setting a clear precedent for the future determination of educator characteristics as hireable or unhireable based on a metric not widely used, including in the United States. In fact, the United States has stopped using the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 3, published in 1987, and favor an updated version released in 2022 aimed at increasing scientific accuracy. I've seen within my own school how students respond better to teachers representing their own demographics, building relationships and performing better in those classes. This bill not only limits the ability of some students and educators to do this, but lacks significant scientific evidence to support the risk of hiring those educators in the first place. Luckily, this bill did not move forward this legislative session, but constituents should remain on the lookout for similar legislative efforts in the future. As the legislature continues to jeopardize Kentucky public schools, students, and educators, Kentucky Student Voice Team will continue to fight for our rights.
My name is Lily Burfield, and I'm a senior at DuPont Manual High School in Louisville. I have been a member of the bill tracking team since the fall and have helped engineer the processes that we've used this year. I've spent months tracking SB 101, a bill that introduces excessively punitive measures for school discipline. This bill requires that students found to have caused physical injury to education personnel to be expelled for at least 1 year. Most alarmingly, it allows children as young as 14 years old to be tried as adults for certain felony violations. SB 101 directly criminalizes minors in a way that contributes to learning loss and targets the most vulnerable students. I understand that discipline is an issue in schools. In my time as a Jefferson County public school student for the past 13 years, I've witnessed firsthand countless classroom disruptions. But addressing school discipline problems requires a solution that is not criminalization. In April, SB 101 was signed into law. This decision was remarkably disheartening. It does not reflect the future I want for my peers and the future students of Kentucky to face. While amendments have sought to remove the expulsion requirement, the most damaging parts of the bill remain. KSVT strives to create more just, democratic Kentucky schools and communities. KSVT opposes this bill because we are committed to ensuring students' rights are respected and protected, not replaced by a school-to-prison pipeline.
Thank you, Lily. My name is Journey Sanders. I am a junior at Walden High School in Louisville, Kentucky. I have been a bill tracking member since fall of 2025, and I have seen how the criminalization of students destabilizes our classrooms. A school's main purpose is to prepare a child for life through providing academic knowledge and nurturing social and emotional development, not sorting children into categories, further reinforcing systemic inequality, better known as the school-to-prison pipeline. At what point do we stop throwing the future of Kentucky away, all because of their color, their skin, their gender, and class? Senate Bill 101 is harmful because it prioritizes punishment over support. When we treat students as criminals rather than children in need of guidance, we destroy the trust necessary for a healthy school climate. While school violence is undoubtedly an issue in Kentucky, youth incarceration makes our communities more unsafe by limiting the education and economic mobility of young people. Allowing minors as young as 14 years old to be tried as adults for third-degree violations will have lifelong negative impacts on the student and the surrounding community. The furthering of the schools-to-prison pipeline as a solution to student and educator safety is not proven, nor is it effective.
Thank you, Journey. My name is Abby Ladwig, and I'm a senior at Owensboro High School. After hearing from some of the many amazing students who have been involved in our policy work over the past year, and some of our takeaways from this session, you get an idea of how students are playing an active role in the preservation of public education. This is not an easy feat for us, however, and we know that is by design. Early morning committee hearings and late night amendments, unresponsive legislators, and opaque procedural hurdles make the legislative sessions incredibly difficult for students to engage with. But we did not let that stop us or silence us. Our work happens beyond the halls of the Capitol and the confines of committee rooms, and into classrooms, board offices, and courtrooms across the Commonwealth. We have always recognized the power that students possess within their local communities. The scale of change, while important, does not define the meaningfulness of change. Our work outside the state legislature has and will continue to be essential to the components of how Kentucky Student Voice Team pushes forward student voice. Despite the many barriers that prevent students from engaging with the state legislative session, we can still claim a few victories from the session. Many of the bills we took action to oppose this session did not pass, or did not pass in the form they are introduced to. As a graduating senior, my work has shaped the past and present of the Kentucky Student Voice Team. However, the future of this organization is just as important to uphold as we continue to shape legislation and education policies in Kentucky. With a goodbye to my work as a student researcher and plaintiff, I would love to introduce two of our newest members who will close us out and give a little peek into how students will be shaping our work moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. My name is Molly Kelly, and I am a sophomore at Mount County Senior High School and a new KSVT member. I applied to be in KSVT after two of my friends recommended that I join. I joined because I wanted to be part of a student-led movement that would help improve Kentucky's education system and ensure students have a voice in the conversation of education. In the future, I can't wait to get to know everyone who is a part of KSVT and learn more about the legislation process. I hope to improve the Kentucky school system and to make Kentucky schools more welcoming to students across the state.
Hello, my name is Rylan Evans. I am a sophomore at Round County Senior High School, and I'm also a member of the Kentucky Student Voice Team's policy team. I want to say a big thank you from all of the members of the Kentucky Student Voice Team policy team for putting together our first State of Schools address. We'd love if you could share one of KSVT's upcoming posts about tonight's address to show your support. One last plug. Our team released a book earlier this year titled Why Students Are Suing the State About Our Ongoing Litigation. We'd love if you could buy a copy and share a review. Thanks again for all your support this school year.